What have you learned about the music business since you got in?
That is slavery.
Why do you say slavery? You got all the cars, you rich as fuck.
That shit don't mean nothing, boy. I worked for that shit. I grind hard. I save my money. I got my money the hard way.
I never got paid from YouTube a day in my life. That's what one of the most streamed rappers in the world said at the peak of his career. Billions of views, #1 albums, platinum records, and according to him, not a single YouTube check. So how does an artist that big say something like that without suing the label, without exposing a contract, without a courtroom battle? What was really inside that deal? To understand how that happened, we have to go back to when he signed the deal. By the time Atlantic came knocking, Youngboy had already built something remarkable entirely on his own. Starting in 2015, he founded Never Broke Again, a label, a brand, a way of life, and he had been flooding YouTube with raw, unfiltered street music that was connecting with millions of people who had never heard his name spoken on a mainstream platform. Mixtapes like 38 Baby and AI Youngboy were not just performing well for an independent kid from Louisiana, they were doing numbers that major label artists with full promotional budgets were not coming close to. The streets had already crowned him, the internet had already decided. Atlantic was simply the last to show up to something that had started without them officially. In August of 2017, at 17 years old, NBA Youngboy signed with Atlantic Records and their APG imprint, a division of Warner Music Group, for a reported $2 million advance covering 5 albums. $2 million sounds life-changing, and for a teenager from Baton Rouge who had been grinding with nothing, it absolutely was. But that number is where the story starts, not where it ends. In most major label contracts, advances are structured as recoupable payments, meaning the label recovers those funds from the artist's royalty share before additional payouts occur. Here is how the structure worked, because understanding it is everything. The $2 million advance was structured as a recoupable advance. That meant Atlantic recovered the payment from Youngboy's royalty share before additional earnings flowed to him. Every marketing campaign, every promotional push, every radio budget, every expense the label decided to run through as a cost of doing business with him got stacked on top of that original advance. Youngboy would not see a single royalty dollar until all of that was recouped, and Atlantic got to decide what counted as a cost. Youngboy's early Atlantic singles, Untouchable and No Smoke, entered the Billboard Hot 100 immediately, and his debut major label project, AI Youngboy, peaked at number 24 on the Billboard 200. Atlantic had made exactly the right bet. But you have to ask yourself, if the music was performing that well, that fast, why did the artist feel trapped almost immediately after signing? The answer is that success and payment are two entirely separate things in a major label deal, and the gap between them is where the label makes its money.
He's an Atlantic artist.
NBA Youngboy.
NBA Youngboy. Why do they tell that young man, and I'm getting from the source like DIs. I'm talking to even sometimes their lawyers. Why did Atlantic basically tell Youngboy, listen, after 22 albums that you dropped in a time period where we only contracted you to do 5, hey, we'll negotiate and give you this amount of money, but we ain't giving you a motherfucking part of your masters back.
Between 2018 and 2022, he released an extraordinary volume of music, multiple #1 albums, and a string of platinum certifications, far exceeding the 5-album requirement in his original deal. He had 4 Billboard 200 #1s in that period, including 3 in 2020 alone, making him only the second hip-hop act in history to accomplish that in a single calendar year. He wasn't just fulfilling a contract, the sheer volume of releases effectively buried it in output, while the label continued collecting revenue and applying it toward recoupment. And the streaming numbers were not just good, they were generational. By the time the conversation around his Atlantic deal really exploded into public consciousness in early 2026, estimates placed the label-generated revenue from his streams, touring, merchandise, and ancillary income at somewhere around $300 million across the life of the deal. That figure comes from a January 2026 YouTube documentary that broke down the math based on his 15 billion plus streams at standard streaming rates, combined with the touring and merchandise ecosystems that Atlantic had a stake in. Is it the exact audited number? No. Are those figures confirmed by a lawsuit or any official financial disclosure? They are not. But even at a conservative fraction of that estimate, the distance between what the label earned and what Youngboy received in his pocket represents one of the most dramatic illustrations of how major label deals actually function for artists who do not know how to read the fine print at 17. By December of 2021, something had shifted. NBA Youngboy had been making music for Atlantic for 4 years. He had put out more albums than his contract required. His streaming numbers were among the most impressive in all of hip-hop. He was being called one of the most viewed artists on YouTube, not just in rap or hip-hop, but globally across all music. And he was telling anyone who would listen that he had not seen the kind of money those numbers should have generated for the man actually making them. That quote, delivered during the DJ Academics Off the Record interview in December of 2021, became the defining statement of Youngboy's Atlantic era. "I never got paid from YouTube a day in my life. All that shit slavery or something." 4 years of being the most watched rapper on the platform, billions of views generating billions of ad impressions, and the artist at the center of it all said he had never received payment for any of it. Under the recoupment structure already built into his contract, YouTube revenue flowed through the label first, not to him. When you're signed to a label and they control your masters and your distribution, the revenue does not go to you first, it goes to them, and then they do the math. The Vlad TV coverage of the same interview added important context, with Youngboy making clear that he desired to be free of the industry structure that had made him feel financially invisible despite his commercial dominance. But the label did not respond. They never had to, because the contract said they didn't. What Youngboy and some of his supporters interpreted as retaliation began to surface, with labels doing so through lawyers or press releases. Some observers believe that shifts in promotional support can occur behind the scenes in ways that are difficult to document publicly. Youngboy's Instagram posts from late 2020 through early 2022 began to include direct accusations that Atlantic was reducing his playlist support, interfering with his chart positions, blocking features with other artists, and generally withdrawing the promotional infrastructure that a major label provides, which makes a signing valuable in the first place. He posted directly to his fans, telling them not to sign to Atlantic, that the label would not support them once they started speaking out. A 2023 YouTube promotion claim added another layer to the narrative of alleged retaliation, with sources suggesting that Atlantic had made it harder for his content to perform at the level it had previously. None of these claims was adjudicated in a court. Atlantic never publicly responded, but the timing of the change in his promotional support, beginning exactly as he started speaking publicly about his financial situation, was not overlooked by his fanbase. There was also the matter of 3860, a collaborative project Atlantic released with Quando Rondo that Youngboy had reportedly opposed, and the steep clearance fees the label was allegedly charging for features, which effectively priced him out of certain collaborations during the period when his commercial stock was at its absolute peak. These are the kinds of leverage moves that a label doesn't have to announce publicly. They simply make them because they control the machinery, and the artist has no equivalent mechanism to push back. It's worth noting here, in the interest of being fair and complete, that Atlantic had provided real value during this period too. Studio infrastructure during Youngboy's house arrest, legal support during his various criminal legal challenges, distribution muscle that put his music in front of audiences far beyond what his independent operation alone could have reached. The recoupment model covers real costs. Advances get spent, videos cost money, and marketing campaigns require investment. The math of a major label deal is not inherently fraudulent, but it is designed to benefit the party with the lawyers and the leverage consistently, and that party is never the 17-year-old from Baton Rouge. The offer that came in to renew the deal made the label's internal valuation of Youngboy abundantly clear. They came to the table with $25 million for a new agreement. Youngboy turned it down. He had watched the streaming numbers. He had done his own version of the math, even without access to the audited figures Atlantic kept on their side of the ledger, and he understood that $25 million against what the label had generated and what they projected they could continue to generate with him under contract was not a deal made in good faith. It was a retention offer built on the assumption that he did not fully understand his own value. The final Atlantic-era album, The Last Slammetto, released in 2022, fulfilled the contract's obligations and closed the chapter. Youngboy walked away from Atlantic Records with his catalog in their vault, his masters under their control, and, according to industry observers, a fraction of the wealth his output had generated for the label. He also walked away with something they couldn't take: his audience, his platform, and a level of independence that the deal's structure had inadvertently preserved by never fully delivering the partnership's financial benefits to him in the first place. That documentary, released in January 2026, placed the total label-generated revenue from Youngboy's streaming output at estimated rates of roughly $0.003 to $0.005 per stream before label splits, combined with the touring income, merchandise, and ancillary publishing revenue at or above $300 million across the life of the deal. The $300 million estimate has not been confirmed through litigation or financial disclosure, and Atlantic has never publicly released detailed revenue figures.
Want some real shit? I'm about to know what I've been through. I'm about to know I'm still going. I done came like so far with this shit, and still had a long ways to go. How I feel. Like, man, I done wanted to quit this shit so many times, man.
Is it sourced from a lawsuit, a financial disclosure, or any Atlantic Records statement? It is not, because Atlantic has never commented publicly on the specifics of their financial relationship with Youngboy, and there is no legal proceeding that produced discovery documents to anchor those figures. What the number represents is a fan and commentator estimate of label-side revenue, the kind of calculation that gets done when you multiply 15 billion streams by the standard label-side streaming rate and add in the other revenue streams that label had a stake in. The estimate of 300 million plus is a narrative device, powerful, illustrative, directionally credible based on the publicly available streaming data, but it is not forensic accounting, and the script would be dishonest to present it as such. What we can say with certainty is this: Youngboy's output during the Atlantic era was historically unprecedented in its volume and consistency. He accumulated dozens of RIAA certifications during that period alone, contributing to what would become a career total of 126 certified titles, a record that made him the most RIAA certified rapper in the history of the format. The revenue those certifications represent, flowing through a deal structure that gave the artist 15 to 20% post-recoupment, while the label retained the masters and the distribution margins, meant that the financial gap between what Atlantic collected and what Youngboy received was real, substantial, and structural, even if the precise dollar figure remains in the realm of informed estimation rather than confirmed fact. After fulfilling the contract with The Last Slammetto, Youngboy transitioned to a joint venture between Motown Records and his own Never Broke Again label, announced in October of 2022. The difference this time was leverage. He was not a 17-year-old signing his first major deal. He was the most viewed rapper on YouTube, with a proven fan base that had demonstrated it would follow him anywhere and streaming metrics that made his market value unmistakable. The results have spoken loudly. Post-Atlantic projects, including I Rest My Case, Don't Try This at Home, and the 2026 release Slime Cry, continued his run of top 10 placements on the Billboard 200. He headlined Rolling Loud and secured what has been described as a presidential pardon in 2025. His revenue per stream under the new arrangement, estimated by multiple industry observers at rates 300 to 400% higher than what he retained under the Atlantic recoupment structure, reflects the difference between being an artist under contract with a major label and being an artist who controls the terms of his own deal. Then, in 2025, a voice no one expected entered the conversation to confirm what everyone had already suspected. Birdman, the Cash Money Records co-founder who had been involved in some capacity with Youngboy's situation during his legal troubles and house arrest, gave an interview in which he described the circumstances of the transition away from Atlantic in blunt, revealing terms. Birdman stated in that 2025 interview that Atlantic Records had effectively handed Youngboy over to Cash Money for free during his legal difficulties and house arrest, saying the label simply didn't know what to do with him. A label that had generated hundreds of millions of dollars from this artist's output, by whatever precise measurement you want to use, had reached a point where they were moving him around like an asset they no longer knew how to monetize and were willing to release without extracting additional value for the transfer. Birdman also offered a projection for what Youngboy's next major deal would be worth, somewhere in the range of $200 to $300 million. That projection, from someone operating within the business, serves as unofficial confirmation of what Atlantic had left on the table. You do not project a $200 million future deal for an artist unless the market data supports that valuation. And if Youngboy is worth $200 to $300 million on his next deal, what does that say about the value that flowed through the $2 million deal he signed at 17? The broader lesson here is one that Youngboy himself has been articulating since 2021 in interviews, Instagram posts, and in his music. Critics of the traditional major label structure argue that it often favors the label in negotiations with newer artists. Prince called it slavery. Meek Mill raised similar grievances with Atlantic during the same period. The pattern exists across generations and genres. What makes Youngboy's case different is the scale of the output and the transparency of the grievance, delivered directly to tens of millions of followers who were watching in real time. There was no lawsuit, no audit confirming the $300 million estimate. Instead, he fulfilled the contract, declined renewal, and moved forward under new terms, turned down the renewal, and walked into the next chapter with enough leverage and independence to render the argument academic. The most certified rapper in history does not need Atlantic to validate his next move. What he needed, and what younger artists need if they read this story carefully, was what he did not have in August of 2017. Information, representation, and the willingness to walk away from a deal that is not built in your favor. Youngboy's transparency about his financial experience and his continued dominance after leaving Atlantic have fueled one of the most significant conversations in hip-hop about artist ownership, independence, and the real mathematics of major label deals. Whether the number is exact or not, the financial gap it represents is what continues to fuel the conversation, not as forensic accounting, but as a way of making visible a financial reality that major labels have always preferred to keep invisible. If you were in his position at 17, would you have taken that deal? And if you're running a label, would you have structured it any differently? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want to see what happened in another industry deal that didn't go the way people expected, tap the next video on your screen.
Wake up, man. I tried to catch you and tell you good morning. Wake up. Get out the door. Make it happen. I'm gonna shoot 3 videos. Cause I got 3 videos that I wanna just get out of my system before I get to actually shutting shit down with my music. Bitch, I'm ready. I'm gonna drop 3 videos to get that shit out of my system. And then I'm gonna start cutting up. So you just stick with me, fuck with me. I've been over here out of pocket. I don't really like talk. I don't know how to talk no more. That's why you don't see me be coming on this bitch and just going up. Yeah, I be saying I'm gonna be talking like I'm just a bitch. Damn. But shit, all that good do too, though, cause you got it. Something must ain't be right. You see, I ain't going off. But all that shit cool or whatever. Hey, get up. Get up, stand up for business, man. Hey, fuck over anything getting away with it. Get up, bitch.
Man, stop that pussy shit. Stop that bitch ass shit. Stop hating on me. Stop hating on me. Bitch, keep Jay's name out your mouth, pussy. Hey, you mad? How you? Hey, why you think I'm so lit? Why you think I'm so motivated? Hey, it's all in the partner. It's all in the bitch. You You better choose your girl right. Fuck, nigga. No rapping ass bitch. Got nothing good to say about nobody. Oh, she hated on her. He played with her. I'm slimy around her, bitch, whatever. You got the game fucked up. You just another ran through body. All these niggas that you done fucked and somehow you still ain't nobody. But I love your nasty trash shades. Cricket booted plastic ass. Bitch be treating me like I'm shit and I ain't do shit that's all that bad. She say she pee, she prostitute. Nasty hoe all about her bag. I'ma sip my drink like fuck them pills and just relax. You ain't coming back no more.